Go ahead.
Go.
I'm Marsya.
I'm John.
And we're reviewing
The
Westerner.
1940 William Wyler.
Oh, I didn't know who directed it, so yeah. Soft porn.
Nice.
No, that's not one word. Soft.
There's a dash.
Hyphenated?
There's a dash.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Being
Okay, no,
at that
I have a
point,
better word.
probably not.
Sensual.
Yeah. Mine was gonna be homoerotic.
Oh, yeah. Being a fangirl will kill you. That's my sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bisexual cowboy tries to be straight cowboy, and it goes well.
Yeah.
Oh, I was hoping
Sorta.
you'd say
We're like getting these beautiful shots of like
Cows.
the West.
Oh, yeah,
And
cows.
and it's like
Cows, essentially.
the whites were entitled to this land, and
Exactly.
they farmed it. That's like your intro to this movie, and you're like, okay, great. You're like in this small little town, they're talking about this guy, Judge Roy Bain, and how he's like the law of the land, whatever he says goes. And you get this trial of him like hanging a man for stealing a horse.
He killed a cow.
Yeah, he shot a cow, and then like there's this like quip where he's like, I swear I was aiming at the man. He's like, that's the problem with you homesteaders. You can't shoot straight.
It's amazing that they care more about like animal life than they do like, you know, people who want white.
You got good old Gary Cooper putting on the Ritz, walks in. He gets brought in for stealing a horse, and Judge Roy Bean's like, wow, you stole this horse. I'm gonna kill you for stealing that horse. And he's like...
The whole thing of this movie is that there's a war between homesteaders versus cattlers. Cattlemen. So yeah, and then Cole Hardin, who is played by Gary Cooper, rolls into town, and he is caught, like, he apparently stole the horse of Chickenfoot?
Mhm.
Chicken Feet? Is that his name?
Chicken Little?
He knows he has no way out. But then he looks at this bar that is owned by Judge Bean, and he sees on the back, like, he like quickly looks and he sees a bunch of photos of this British actress. I think she was a
Yeah.
famous English actress
Yep.
named Lily Langtree.
Langtree.
Langtree, yeah. He sees all these pictures and then he was like, oh, this guy is obsessed. I must slide into that and use that to my advantage. And he was like, I know Lily Langtree. I've met her once. And then like Judge Bean gets all fangirly. He was like, you've met Lily Langtree? And he's like, yeah. And then he's like, I have a lock of her hair. And then he's like, oh my god, can I have the lock of hair? Cole is such a great liar. Like he already said that like Cole Hardin's gonna get he's gonna die because he stole the horse, but he decides to delay the sentencing. This random cowboy who comes into the bar, Cole manages to pin that this guy was the one who stole the horse.
Cole ends up like throwing him down the stairs and like takes his gun away so he can't shoot him. But he has a hidden gun.
Yeah.
And so what happens is the guy like starts to pull his hidden gun and Bean sees it and like snaps and shoots him. You get this great flash on Gary Cooper's face where he's like, oh my god. Because like everything worked out for him, but he like didn't want this guy to die. He just wanted to knock him out and then be like, he was the horse thief, and then like not have to deal with the repercussions of that. Because he's like, oh, have a shot of this whiskey. It's called Rub of the Brush. He's like, but don't spill it because it will like burn the bar counter. And then you get a shot of him spilling it and it like literally eats through the wood. They pull out like little shot glasses and they like look at each other and they pull out like beer glasses instead. And they each pull out a pint and like one starts pouring it and the other one starts pouring it. And then like they just dump them. So they dump them.
And they're like staring at each other
like eye to eye. They're like
eye.
this close. They're like...
Yeah, like if you just put in the right music. Oh my god.
Yeah, fade to black. And then you open on them in bed together the next morning.
I was about to say they had
Right?
sex then, right?
Right? Like, arm around him, like, full on, like, then Gary Cooper, like, gets up, and he's, like, sneaking around the room, like, looking for his clothes, like, to get out of there.
Cole Hardin's like, okay, I'm gonna go to California. I'm gonna take this horse, and then he goes, and then, like, the judge walks out to his bar, and then he sees the drinks that he had that the night before that got him super plastic. He was like, oh, shit. And then he, like, chases after Cole Hardin, and he was like, wait, and then Cole Hardin's like, what the f***? And then, like, he catches up to him, tackles him off the horse, and then they tumble, right? He's like, oh, stay here, make a life with me, blah, blah, blah. Cole is, like, playing this guy like a fiddle, right? He steals his gun.
The bias for bigot and bisexual.
The judge realizes that he doesn't have his gun anymore. He was like, by gods, he stole my gun.
Yeah.
And my heart.
He, like, runs into this woman who, like, was at his like trial back in town and like spoke for him. So he like pretends that he's into the woman and like cuts her hair off and is like, I just think best in the film. You're not the prettiest woman I've seen, but you have the prettiest hair I've ever seen. What?
Yeah.
So he cuts off her hair, and then he's like, oh, by the way, these scissors are yours. I stole them from your apartment. Your apartment? He ends up giving the hair to Roy Bean, and he's like, wow, like, I want to settle this conflict. This is not good. These people are going to kill each other. So he talks to both sides and gets them to, like, essentially settle their differences. And then Roy Bean's like, yeah, like, I'll pull the cattle out so they can have the land. But surprise, plot twist, he actually did it so he could burn all their land down and make them all leave. So he burns all their houses down. And then he, our boy confronts him, and he's like, hey, what the f***? This was like, like, why'd you do that? And he was like, I did it, and I'll do it again, because, like, this is our land, we're cattle barons, and we, like, did this whole thing. Lily Langtry comes to town, and they end up having this, like, showdown. He, like, ends up shooting Roy Bean. Roy Bean's, like, a Confederate soldier, also. That's a whole thing we gotta talk about. And then he's like, hey, like, let's do, like, an honest shootout. And they stand up, and then it's, like, revealed that Roy Bean's already been hit, so he, like, falls over. And then our sweet boy picks him up in his arms, and they play the wedding march in minor, and he, like, carries him to go meet Lily Langtry, and then he dies. Then flashes forward to, like, being in a home with the girl, and it seems very, like, surreal, like it didn't actually happen.
It felt like it was, like, put in at the end to make it pass censors, you know what I mean?
It definitely could.
It felt super pasty.
Well, like, they have, like, that, like, it, like, fades to black when he, like, sees Langtry, and then he, like, dies. That would have been a great ending.
Yeah. I mean, his whole, like, fixation on the actress seems kind of, like, overcompensating for something.
Well, okay, so the way that I thought of it was, like, if this was the 21st century, who would that be? And my immediate thought was Beyonce. It's, like, it could be sensual, but it's, like, not sexual attraction. It's, like, she's just great. She's, like, this perfect performer, and he's obsessed with that. And she's, like, an icon for him. But, like, I think we make the mistake of, like, whenever a man is obsessed with a woman, because, I mean, men are creepy. It's a whole thing we can get into. But whenever a man's obsessed with a woman, we, like, make it sexual.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily what's going on in this film. And, like, there is no implication that he wants to sleep with her.
This movie kind of, like, subverts a lot of things I've kind of, like, associated with the Western genre for some reason.
Right? It's so good.
It's, like, super desexualized, like, when it comes to women. Women were barely present in the film.
Yeah,
but the ones
fails
that
the Bechdel test.
Like, they weren't, like, that. Like, I mean, the judge was rude to, like, Jane Ellen, but, like, that's because she's a homesteader, not necessarily because she's a woman. Wow, I'm just so excited about all the gay stuff.
Right? Who's this guy who, like, doesn't have a background, which this film does well, right? Where it's like, he's like, where are you from? Nowhere. Where you going? Nowhere. Just California. That character often, like, needs a father figure. They're like, oh, like, I have all these violent tendencies, I need somebody to guide me. And they play with the father figure and turn it into a daddy figure.
Yeah.
It's a very, like...
When I watched the movie, I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, this guy is gonna be, like, the father he never had. That was what I got. And then they woke up in bed together, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. No, and, like, they both had this look like, oh, again.
Like, punches in this movie are, like, silent.
Yeah,
It's
it's
weird.
weird.
You just hear, like, a gush of wind, like, yeah, I guess, like, this movie, like, it's not an action-packed movie.
It's more about, like, how Gary Cooper is, like, subverting these narratives of, like, what a typical traditional Western does. Okay, don't do that. We're not degrading Degrassi.
I am degrading
Drake.
Degrassi.
Was there anything that you, like, absolutely didn't like about this film?
1, 2, 3, blackface?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's something you haven't mentioned yet.
Right? Like, a movie like that in the 1940s with blackface, and then, you know, complete absence of Native Americans, right? And also having the bunch of Chinese beggars, like, in one of the shots, like, you know, like, they don't exist in this time, right? But then blackface, like, how does one, like, what would you say to that?
It's the 40s, they're racist, they're putting it on camera. That's just, like, what's happening. But, like, looking at it through a modern lens, it's interesting, I guess, to analyze the implications of, like, where it goes to.
Is it weird that I feel like it didn't, like, there was a part of me that was like, it's probably a lot worse than it is in this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, yeah.
Well, imagine if whatever show that was they were doing, like, happened.
Right, yeah. Famous guy, Colin Firth, he was in a movie where he race bends as an Asian magician. Brings a question: can a man who is not black write a movie about, you know, that kind of topics? I don't know. I wish I did.
Both of them. Let me see. We've got.
This better make the final video.
There, like, isn't any besides, like, the wedding march, which
and then
is great.
the Thanksgiving thing, but barely any music.
No, there's very little score to it. So what they do is, like, when he shoots Roy Bean and he realizes that he's dying, he like picks him up and they play like the wedding march. So he's like picked him up like he's like carrying a bride through like a doorway.
It's actually really sweet and romantic. And
But they
really
play it
sad.
in minor. So it's
Right.
like dark and sad.
Yeah.
Because he's dying.
I don't like. I feel like that choice. It's like a whole nother thing to unpack, right? Like, are they saying like if if things were different, these two men could be together
What
and
if-
not be held by this idea of what being a cowboy, being a man is? If they didn't have to be held to those standards of being a because. Cole Hardin gets a home, right? Like that is so-called his happy ending, and
Yeah.
like Judge Bean's happy ending was to meet this actress, right? But it was like it's all about being a man.
Yeah.
If they didn't have to deal with that, would they have been able to, they wake, like, I guess, like, they were able to wake up in bed together and be like, let's keep it. I like you,
Like, okay, so if you only have them waking up in bed together, it's like, oh, this is a funny scene. But because it's concluded with that, of, like, the wedding march, I think the message is very clear that it's, like, these two people, like, love each other. Because you get all these scenes of, like, opposing ideologies and then, like, being civil and, like, talking.
And
And
trying
then,
to
like-
protect each other.
Yeah, and you get that scene of, like, when Cole, like, makes him swear. He's like, hey, like, tell me you didn't burn down these fields. He's like, I didn't do it. And he's like, swear in your life. He's like, I didn't do it. And he's like, where's that, like,
Oh, so
Lily
he was like,
Langtry's
swear
hair?
on the Bible. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Well, he was like, swear in Lily Langtry's hair. And he's like, I can't do it. Like, I did it. I burned it down. You see this, like, genuine hurt on Cole's face where he's like, I've been lied to. And it's like, it's just so, like, endearingly, like, romantic. The sleeping together, the heartbreak, and the wedding march scene all individually could be written off as like, oh, whatever. But like in sequence, it's very clear.
Probably 8 out of 10 lock of hairs. Because I think I mean, my expectations were like, for that movie, and at the end I was like, whoa, that was very good. And if I really enjoy it, I still think about the characters, and that usually makes it a quick 8 out of
I'm gonna say 7 cuffed jeans out of 10.
Ooh.
And the reason is like
Pairs or singles?
Yeah, like the pairs or like legs.
I really like the film, but I can't not take points away from it for like one, bad editing, but also like the racial stereotyping. I
That's
feel like it
true,
needs to
yeah.
be brought up and like taken away from its scoring what it did. But it does a very good job of deconstructing masculinity and deconstructing like the Western stereotypes.
You want some of
Give
my
me a little bit of
vodka
that.
coke?
Give me a little bit of that. Rub with the brush.
Sounds
Rub with the
awful.
brush.
Rub with a brush.
Vodka and
Who do you
Coke.
think rubbed
Vodka
whose
Coke.
brush?
To homoeroticism.
To homoeroticism.
My name's John Grozny. If you like our doodads, click on this link.
If you want to see more of me, click here.
No, click on yourself.
Right above.
Grozny, like and subscribe. If you don't, the patriarchy wins.